This is UMass basketball.
I know this. I'm the most animated coach that you've probably ever seen.
Diggins, he'll let it fly. Soft as summer rain. Rasul Diggins grows the UMass lead.
Hey, he's just being Frank.
That is right. It is time for another episode of Just Being Frank. The season is here. UMass with a W on Monday night at the Mullins Center. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside head coach Frank Martin. And coach, good to see you. Got to feel pretty good coming into today after a victory last night. How'd it go?
Well, as you can see, I'm wearing my little, by the way, I didn't know these rope hats were a thing.
Very cool.
My little rope hat with the little cursive UMass on there. Like, you got the incapable submission shirt. I mean, we're right in it.
We're rolling.
We're in it now. I thought last night was good. I mean, I'm trying to force guys to learn how to play, not run plays. So that means that, the easy thing to do as a coach is draw up a basketball play and get players to act like robots and run a play. But the easiest thing to defend as a team are plays. The hardest thing to defend is when a team understands how to play off each other in their space, and player movement and ball movement happen just based on the moment, not on a design play. And so we've spent all of preseason trying to comprehend that. And yesterday, I called a couple plays here and there, but we've made progress there. Now we got to learn how to run some plays, because there's, you're in a 5-point game, and you got to get a good possession. Now you got to be able to get a guy the ball in an area where he's really good, so you can take advantage of those matchups and those moments. We're not there yet. We'll get there. And then defensively, on the game last night, our ball screen defense. I've tried some different things this year than what I usually run, and I think that all that did has been. And I've been trying to be patient with it, because Jay, here's the deal. Like, when you're young and you're trying to coach and trying to figure it out for the first time, you try different things, and some things you like, some things you don't. But at the end of the day, you form an opinion on what's the best for what you can teach. When you deviate from what you've taught, it's easy to give up on something
Because it doesn't work right away.
Correct.
Yes.
And it's different than what you know.
It's like a golf swing. When you start trying to change your swing for the better, but it doesn't give you immediate results, you give up on that and go back to the way you used to do things.
There you go. That's why you're here to help
So
me
insightful.
explain stuff. But I've been real patient with it. But I've not seen any progress. So over the next couple days, we don't practice today. Which, by the way, the NABC was the one that passed the opinion during COVID that we should not be allowed to play games or practice on Election Day.
Okay.
Now it's election season, so I don't know why we're taking this day off anymore. It makes we've had people have been voting for 3 months. So
we're fortunate in the great state and Commonwealth of Massachusetts where we have early voting, but some places don't.
I know.
Well, let me rewind.
We just won a game. I'm like, I just want to talk about crazy stuff.
103-74. But you said something that I think is interesting, because you're saying that, look, if you're running plays and the opposition can then figure out like what the exact play is, they can disrupt that play because they know the next move to it. Is that fair assessment? You're saying I need to teach these guys how to learn how to actually play within the flow of the game and be able to adjust on the fly. Is there a factor of trust that you have to have with guys? And where does that trust really have to fall on? Is that mostly the point guard, or does it spread out to other positions?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I got to know when you're going to be really aggressive and when you're not. And that determines on being at practice with you every day and when you catch the ball in certain areas of the floor. I got to know when you're thinking pass and when you're thinking score. So now when you're in an area of the floor where you're more of a pass first guy, I got to be more of a cutter, screener, relocator.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in an area of the floor where I know you're aggressive to go get shots from those areas, then I've got to be more of a rebounder, anticipate late double team so I can relocate kind of. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense, like finding the strengths of what guys can do and hitting
correct
in those spaces.
So when you run a play, it's like this guy start here, go screen for this guy go here, this guy go there. That's easy to defend. But you're running the play to get you to that spot where now you're becoming the passer or the scorer, so we know what you're doing. The hard thing to do is to trust players, to get them, to give them structure. Everyone thinks structure is a play. Structure is spacing. Understand where we're at all times. And then we make our cuts and our decisions and actions from those spaces. So now if you catch the ball on the left side of the floor, and I know you're right hand dominant, you're not driving it to the baseline.
Right.
So then our cuts on the other side are predetermined based on you driving it middle, not baseline. Vice versa. I hope that makes sense what I just said, Jay.
Yeah, I'm following you.
So now when pace of play to me is the most important thing. I thought yesterday we were hit. I know we scored 100 points or whatever we did. I thought we were hit and miss with our pace of play. I want us to play. We didn't play 5 guys fast. We played 3 guys fast, 4 guys fast. We never played all 5 guys fast. Pace of play creates open court opportunities, which the defense it's really stressful on defenses to load up to defend good players in the open court. That's why I like pace of play.
12 of 35 from 3-point range. I think I saw someone say that that's the most threes that your team has taken since you've been here at UMass. Is that too many threes? I mean, I know they were going down for Rasul Diggins, but what did you think about the 3-point attempts and the large amount of them?
Yeah, I wasn't bothered by them. I was more disappointed we didn't get to the foul line because I thought, like I said in the post game, I thought our guys tried to drive the ball. I thought our guys tried to post up. I thought we got the ball in the paint, but we didn't get to the foul line. I mean, there was I'm not big at looking at stat sheets during the game. Like I need the stats to tell me what's happening in the game. I'm the head coach. I don't need stats to tell me what's happening. But I picked up this because I had a feeling that like we're not getting to the line.
Yeah. So
I looked and it was halfway through the second half or something, and we were being outshot 15-3 from the foul line. And I was like, how's this happen? So I haven't had a chance to watch our film yet. I was watching West Virginia. I'll probably watch our film tonight. But I got to figure out if either we didn't get calls or we just quick shot it and just avoided contact. It's easy to have an opinion when you're on the sideline that, they missed a call. I got no idea. I got to go watch the film. But the bottom line is I was not disappointed in our threes. I was more disappointed that we didn't attempt more free throws. That's what I was more disappointed in.
One of the calls last night was a goaltending call on Shaheed Muhammad. And on the broadcast, Frank Sullivan, our esteemed analyst, said he didn't think it was a goaltending. And the officials went back during the timeout and took that goaltending away. And I think that just might give you an idea of how impactful Muhammad can be defensively because, I mean, he high-pointed that ball at the peak before it started coming down. You kept him in with 4 fouls, I think, early in the second half. What was your impressions of him on the floor? And I mean, do you think he's going to be a menace throughout the season defensively?
Yeah, I mean, offensively, he has to understand what we're doing and be more consistent with being where he belongs. He's a wonderful young man. If he has his feet under him, it's really hard to score when he's a secondary. He's got to learn how to become more of a primary defender. But when he's a secondary defender, and he can get near that rim, like it's a problem to score over the top of him. But he's awesome. I'm really excited because he can do some things like I've said in preseason, from an instinctual standpoint, from playing over people, and whether it's dunking balls or blocking shots. I've never had somebody that can do some of the things he does. He's just like everyone else. He didn't start playing when he was 10 years old like most guys do. He started playing in high school. So there's a lot of things instinctually that he does, which is like, wow, like for a guy that's played so little. But then there's other things that he's still trying to figure out. And there's only one way he's going to learn, and that's by practicing every day and by repetition, and then figure out a way to find confidence in some of these things so he can do them in a game.
Jalen Curry had 12 assists.
Yeah.
And looking at the turnovers, I think 0, was it? 12 assists, 0 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make you feel like, hey, this is the trajectory for this young man? And I think picking up where he left off from last year, but ultimately it might not just be about points for Curry. It's the way that he's able to distribute the basketball.
Yeah, like he's no different than 90% of the high school point guards right now. Is nobody has structure anymore. It's just ball screen, go make a play. Ball screen, go make a play. So these kids are getting cheated because they don't understand how to play. All they know is how to go shoot the ball. And if they don't shoot it, how to just pass it to the guy that will shoot it. They don't comprehend how to read the defense to set the pass up that leads to the assist. That everyone calls that the hockey assist.
Yeah, the second.
That's hockey's awesome.
Secondary assist, yeah.
Yeah, because the easy thing is they don't guard me, I shoot it. Then the next one is I beat my man, and that guy helped, so I pass it to him, and he shoots it. The good ones, they understand how to beat their man, force help, and then read the guy that's left open. Then now that guy makes the pass that leads to the shot. That's and you don't get statted.
Right.
In basketball to make that play. And in this world that we've created at the grassroots where it's look at me and my stats. No one cares about winning anymore. It's all stats. It drives me nuts.
I'm totally making that a meme, by the way.
It drives me nuts, man. I can't, stats are like it's the most overrated thing that exists.
Coach, how do you feel about the stats?
To win, you have to sacrifice. So if you sacrifice, how do stats impact you? If I'm telling you to win, you have to sacrifice, but then I highlight your stats. How's that? Like there's some stats that matter, like for individual improvement but we've created this world where I got to show the world that I got X number of assists or X number of points or X number of rebounds, and I've got an old saying. You look at the NBA where it's the best players in the world play in the NBA. Why are there more bad teams than good teams if there's so many good players? And then secondly, you know what every one of those teams has, those bad teams? A guy making $40-50 million a year with good stats. Well, like stats, like
yeah, no.
But
are you are you suggesting that? Because what you're saying is the secondary assist or the hockey assist, it's really setting up the future of the play. So seeing 2, 3, 4 moves ahead, like a chess match. Did you see some of that from Curry? He did have the stats, 12 assists, but he was able to do that last night.
Well, last year, he was trying to go shoot the ball, and he would shoot it when he should have passed it. So, like the easy way, and I hate saying it publicly because it sounds demeaning to Jalen. Like last year, I can count in one hand his good decisions. Right now, I count in one hand his bad decisions. It means he used to make a lot of bad decisions. So he's improved drastically on there. And then defensively, he's really grown. Like, that's the other part. This is where the Bob Hurleys of the world, not having them around anymore at the grassroots level, Morgan Wooten, my guy, Shaky Rodriguez, all these great high school coaches that used to exist. Like, you've heard this saying now that it has to be the analytics guy that came up with these words because it's the most irrelevant. He's a two-way player. No, you know what, Sherlock? Like, you play basketball. You don't play like 11 in, 11 out. You play both sides of the floor. And the most overrated thing I've ever heard is that you're good offensive players, you got to save them on defense. For what? For his stats or to win games? You're trying to win, he better defend. Like, I don't know. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, like John Stockton, like
two-way
Isaiah
players.
Thomas, keep going. Like all the guys that win consistently, they defend. And
I'm glad we got you wound up on this Tuesday.
It's season time, Jay. It's season time.
Okay.
It's not the summer anymore.
It's for real. About what you're saying, I think, the comments that I saw from folks, defensively look very aggressive, intense. I know you gave up the 70 plus, but it was that was kind of the pace of the game. What did you learn something about your team? Because you just said it, you're going to have to go see West Virginia on Friday and what's going to be a very hostile environment and not a lot of time to kind of digest what you've got now and take those steps to improve. So what did you learn? Did you like what you saw, and what do you think the signs are for the future?
Yeah, I mean, our aggression is something I enjoy. We didn't commit a lot of bad fouls. Some of the fouls we committed was when we made mistakes and the ball got to places on the floor that we don't need to let it get there. But we weren't out there hand checking and grabbing off the ball and all that. We didn't do any of that stuff. Which when we do that, that's what frustrates me. Our ball screen defense, I talked about it. We just mentioned it. I've changed the coverages, and when you and I are done here, I'm meeting with my staff and I'm reevaluating that whole scenario there. I don't want to just junk it after we invested time in it, but I'm just not happy with the progress we've made there. And, now West Virginia, we get ready to play a team that plays a little differently. They play more like, to give you an example, Richmond last year. They play 5 out. They don't try to play off the bounce from 3 or 4 spots like the guys yesterday were doing. They try to get it to their 5-man, and then they start running all these cuts and flares and all kinds of actions to put you at a disadvantage to create shots. So it's going to be a different kind of game, what we have to defend. But I like our aggression. Our center spot has to be more consistent with coverages. Because Shaheed can block shots, and Malik's a competitive dude, and he's going to throw his body around in there. And then that the better they do, then the more we can utilize the length and athleticism that we have at the 3 and the 4 to be more disruptors as help defenders. And if our 5s can get better at their coverages, then it allows 3s and 4s to make those skip passes a lot harder. So we'll get there. The bottom line is when you have a team that desires to be good at something and they work at it, as a coach, you're optimistic, and that's what we have. We have a group of guys that really they really want to grow defensively, individually and collectively. So that's what excites me, and the fact that we can score 100 points, that doesn't happen very often, especially for a team that I've been driving real hard to defend better.
I'm just going to go through some of the things in the box score while we got some time. Marquis Worthy got 15 minutes in. Luka Damjanec made his debut. He had 4 minutes. You had Tariq Foster with a career-high 8 points. He came in later in the game. Nate Garangomba had 10 in his debut. Abdel Gowad, who you just mentioned, a double-double for him. So it feels like, and I think you also said this in the post-game comments, like that depth and kind of first team, second team, however you want to shake it up, feels like it might be a little bit stronger this year than it had in the previous seasons. One
Uh,
game, I know, but yeah,
yeah, it's um, that's what recruiting's all about. Like everyone always focuses in on recruiting, like for your first three, four guys. Recruiting's about building depth, about continuing to build a roster that has guys that fit who we are. Luckily, we returned seven guys, so we've been fortunate, unlike most places, that we've got a group of guys coming back,
yeah,
which allows you to build depth. Because if you're always five new guys, five new guys, five new guys, it's hard to build depth. But because we returned seven, it's allowed us now in recruiting to have some depth to what we're doing. And the great thing is that our staff, my assistants, they did a great job, and the guys that we recruited, that they're really competitive. And they've come in here from day one and they've been willing to do what we ask them to do, teammates, returning teammates and coaches, and then really competitive in their ways, which has made the returning guys have to work even harder. That's how you get improvement. And but we've got a group of guys that at this point of the season, I'm comfortable with throwing guys out there because they're prepared to take on that challenge. And with Marquis and Tariq Foster, you're seeing the same thing you saw with Jalen Curry and Rasul Diggins a year ago. It's their second year. They make a step up, and
yeah.
so I'm excited, man. We've got a fun group.
Let's still one guy we haven't talked a lot last couple of seasons is Tariq Foster. Didn't get to play a ton last year. I also wanted to mention in that rundown too, 4 steals, 2 breakaways for Akeel Watson. It looked like back to back the same play. He was able to steal it, create the breakaway, and get an easy basket. Foster comes in. I think he, was kind of able to create some difficulties and then create some easy buckets. That's a guy that in today's day and age sits pretty much all his freshman season. A lot of times they would say, "Hey, I'm going to go play somewhere else, hit the transfer portal." He chose to stay. How has he developed in his short amount of time here?
Yeah, day and night. I mean, like he was a commit to VCU.
Right.
And Mike Rhodes and I can say this on his behalf because I know it's true. We respect each other tremendously. And when Mike made the decision to go to Penn State, Tariq's Tariq's guy, the guy that looks out for Tariq in New York, called me and said, "Frank, he's not going to Penn State. Before I open this thing up, do you want him?" And I called Mike, and Mike was awesome. Mike was very candid, and Mike told me, he said, "Frank, I think he's going to become a really, really good player." If you remember how VCU teams played under Mike, defensive-minded, in passing lanes, contesting everything at the perimeter and at the rim. And then offensively, a lot of cutting and spacing and shooting. And Tariq, that's kind of who he is. And he's grown tremendously in that world. And he can really run. He knows how to score, can shoot it. So I'm real happy for Tariq because your point, him and Marquis Worthy, at the end of the year last year, neither one got in a game. And today's day and age, those guys all pack their bags and leave. They don't stay with it to make it work. And those two guys did the polar opposite. They were like, "No, you believed in us. Well, we're here to help you, and we're going to stay and work and work and work and earn our way into this." And that's what they've done. And I'm real happy for both guys.
Can a game like that, because I think there was times last year where he didn't even get the run that he was able to get in the game. 8 minutes, 8 points is pretty darn good. Can a situation like yesterday at least give a young man like that some confidence that, hey, like I can belong out here, and now I sort of know where I'm supposed to be at any given time?
Absolutely. And what's made him better prepared for that moment, not only is dealing with last year, but now in practice every day, he's going up against Daniel Rivera. He's going up against Jaden Jinge.
Yeah.
And those guys are wired physical competitors. And Tariq hasn't run from it. He came into this year better prepared to go at that. And because of that, he's better prepared for a game. And now when his number was called yesterday, he contributed. And which should make him feel good, like I can do this. Yep. Which now is that you want guys to keep getting better. Well, you don't get better because everything's easy. You get better because you got to learn, and you got to be fearless to the work, and you got to do it every day. It's not just when you're in the mood. But what drags you back to work more is when you feel some success. And hopefully the fact that he went out there and all his work in the preseason showed him like, oh, wow, I can do this, gets him excited to come in and do more work. And that's the progress that – Jay, that's the way life used to be, Jay. Now we all sit around and send emails. Right?
And have meetings. Hey, you mean I just don't get better?
Boom!
By showing up and wanting to get better? Okay. You just mentioned that this West Virginia team, a whole new team from what I understand from a year ago. I haven't looked at them when you guys beat them down in Springfield. You just mentioned, kind of gave that Richmond analogy, which to me, I hear like preparing for the Army triple option when you play a team like that versus playing someone else.
Exactly.
So how do you counter that, especially on the defensive side of the basketball?
You seriously want me to tell you what my
I would love to learn, Coach. I'm here. I don't want you to give the game plan away, though.
Come watch us practice tomorrow, and then during the game you can talk about it. I can't tell you that right now. No, it's there's some adjustments that the defense I teach was put together. I learned it from my high school coach and Bob Huggins combined. And then I've created my own opinions based being around those two guys because they were both very disruptive-oriented coaches defensively. And it's to get you away from passing the ball and get you away from running a play, okay, to make you play off the bounce. Well, then teams went to, side ball screen stuff. Well, when you side ball screen on this side, there's a lot of guys over here. Now, as basketball continues to progress, what teams are doing now is now they're putting their center at the top of the key. And that's when you hear all this spacing. The game hasn't changed. It's just how do you get to those areas, which is the paint that's changed offensively. Well, it used to be the centers on the baseline. Now the people are putting their center at the top of the key. The objective is still the same, score at the rim. But now people are running their offense, whether it's flares to slips or back cuts or dribble handoffs to drives to roll replaces to get the ball in the paint, initiated with their center at the top of the key instead on the baseline. So once your center leaves the baseline, goes to the top of the key, now the baseline, the rim is open. That's where all this spacing comes from. Well, you have to adjust defensively because of that. What do I mean? Well, now your paint coverage has to be, instead of running a play to get a post up, now guys are running a play to get a back cut. And there's no big at the rim to protect the back cut. So then how do you protect those back cuts? Those are the adjustments you got to make. Flare screens. I used to never worry about slips. Why? Because most people have had a big on the baseline. So the slip is going right into the guy that's on the baseline. Well, the offensive guy's no longer on the baseline. He's at the top of the key. So now if someone slips, you got issues. Why? Because there's no one at the rim to help you on the slip. So there's adjustments you have to
That's where like the passing big man comes into play, right? I think Richmond has been known for that over the years. Wasn't it a couple years ago we were down at Myrtle Beach, Charlotte sort of ran something similar through a guy that could really distribute, and it gives the team a whole nother look.
Yeah. I know I'm a boring basketball coach because I use every sport but basketball as analogies. But I was a Buddy Ryan defensive-minded football. Like when I play football, I loved how Buddy Ryan ran defense. His idea was, who's your guy with the ball? The quarterback? Okay, we're coming after him, and we're going to hit him and hit him and hit him. So that's how I like to play against your point guard. We're gonna get after you and after you and after you and after you. And if you can sustain all that for 40 minutes, you know what, man, I'm going to hug you after the game and say, you're all right. But chances are that you can't do that. Now, when teams put their center up there, why do you think this was created? Because the game was starting to be taught differently defensively. So point guards couldn't sustain that. So people said, well, no one teaches their center how to defend out there. So let's initiate everything from the center because now there's no ball pressure because centers have been told stay in the paint. Well, that's where I've said that's where the game's changed. Is that now you have to learn how to defend out there. It's not how you play on offense. The idea is still the same offensively, get that thing in the paint. So now your center's the one initiating offense. Well, he's your new quarterback. It's not the point guard anymore. So that's the guy we got to go hit.
Yeah.
Now, in basketball, obviously, you don't smash guys under the chin strap. It's ball pressure. So our centers, when we coach that, you watch us practice, we ask our centers to be out there and guard on purpose. So if you want to initiate offense to your center, that ball pressure still doesn't change. It has to be the same.
Okay, lastly for you here on the West Virginia matchup. You mentioned Bob Huggins earlier. This was a relationship that came about, this West Virginia series, because of your relationship with Coach Huggins, who obviously is no longer there, had a pretty public falling out. How is he doing? I guess I haven't heard much about him, and give us a little bit of background on your relationship with him and where it begins.
Yeah, I just spoke to him 2 days ago. I'm excited to see him. He still owns his house in Morgantown. I'm excited to see him this weekend, and he's good. He's healthy. He's lost a bunch of weight. The biggest now what's the word I'm looking for? Jay, help me with my English here, man. Remember, I'm a math teacher. When people misconception, there you go. Biggest misconception about him is that he's this derelict that doesn't care, and he's about doing things the right way. And when he screws up, like some of the most powerful moments that I've had as an assistant coach was him walking into a locker room or a team meeting and owning his mistakes in front of the players. And it's who he is. He owns his mistakes, and that's why people love him. Anyone that's with him, that's why they love him, because he drives you to get better, but he checks himself too. He doesn't just pass the buck to other people. And he's at peace that he messed up. But he doesn't. Jay, I think he's the third or fourth winningest coach in the history of the game.
Wow.
He's got over 900 wins. And he's done so much good for the game and for people. He messed up. He knows it. So he wants to get back on the saddle. And he deserves to be back on the saddle. So he can finish his career the way it needs to be finished. Because when you look at he doesn't cheat, doesn't do wrong by people. Contrary to popular belief, his players graduate. All his players love him. His mistakes have been self-inflicted. Has nothing to do with hurting his players or the business by cheating or none of that stuff. Everyone else has been given a free pass to come back from all kinds of things that have hurt the business of college basketball. I hope there's an athletic director out there that understands that he embraces his mistake. He embraces that he had to adjust some things, and he has, because he's too good at what he does, which is not just winning games, empowering people to succeed in life. And it's who he is, man. And so he's good. He's in good spirits. I think he's going to try and do a little television here this year, if I'm not mistaken.
I was just looking up his page, 935 career wins, man. Hall of Fame, 2022. A very public and dangerous mistake. And I think, as you're saying, hopefully he's learned from that. And I'm glad you get a chance to catch up with him, hopefully when we get down there.
Yeah, I've got a saying, and I share it with players all the time. just because they're young and they're impressionate on commenting on others' mistakes. You know, a lot of people beat Hugs up because of the mistake he made, and I'm not here to defend mistakes. I've made that mistake. Luckily, I had to give up drinking 17 years ago because of my health. But when I see people make mistakes, I don't rush to create judgment. Like, we're human beings. I'm not getting deep in this one right now on you, but we're here for a reason. I create opinions on the ones that are openly ready to create judgment on others' mistakes more than the people that make mistakes. The people that make mistakes, the future will tell me what they're about. Do they
change their behavior or not?
Change, correct. And if they don't, then they're telling you who they are. But the people that sit back and immediately want to opinionate on others' mistakes, like every one of them is still making that mistake. They just haven't been caught. And those are the ones that drive me nuts.
On the lighter side, I think I heard yesterday a line from you: make a new mistake to one of your players, because you don't want them to keep making the same mistake.
Like you're in practice every day, and the mistake is this one. Like, come on, like, make the adjustment. That's why we keep stopping practice to teach you this. Don't do that. Make a mistake over there somewhere so we can teach you something new. And but that's when you deal with 18, 19, 20. I was there. I used to be that age, so I'm not going to act like I didn't make those mistakes too.
Were you a little maybe calmer yesterday on the sidelines?
Yeah, I'm getting older, Jay. I'm seriously, I'm getting older, man. In this new day and age that we're in, because everything I've always been trained to do in my life is the long game. It's not the short game. And when you're, it's like my children. They're going to be my children for the rest of my life. So every decision I make, every action that I take on their good and their bad is based on the long game. Because eventually I got to turn them loose and let them be adults. And I need them to carry that name and that responsibility with pride. I shouldn't say pride. That's not one of my favorite words. With a sense of responsibility of making that name better as they go through their journey. Doesn't mean it has to be the same. Just make it better. And it was the same way with my teams and my players. But now we're in a different time period where everything is more short. It's not a long game. It's a shorter game that we play because and the whole transfer situation. I ain't worried about players leaving. They're getting coached while they're here. And if this isn't what they want, they have the right to leave, and I'm not mad at them. But the fact that you're not keeping them for 3-4 years. It's.
I would say it just, we can close with this, but I think there's fans here that have very much enjoyed the growth, as you talk about this all the time, of a guy like Rasul Diggins, who's now in his third season. And look, he's coming off a 26-point game. Started to see Jalen Curry, take those next steps forward. Jaden Jingay, Daniel Hankins Sanford. I mean, so there's so much quality from not only a learning perspective, but a fan perspective as well, when you're able to still see that type of growth in individuals. It's still there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I've never had an interest in coaching no, I'm not saying I can do it. I'm just saying on my side of coaching professional. Why? Because that's a business. That is solely on winning and losing games and contracts. Like when those practices end, you think those players sit around and have conversations about, oh, we miss our rotations and I got to get my left hand better. As soon as practice ends, those guys are all a group of individual corporations. They all go their own way. The coach doesn't go home and worry about how to motivate player B to be a better teammate. He just wants player B to do his job that he's contractually obligated to do. And that's why I've always tried to stay on the amateur side, because to me, that's what matters. The games are difficult, man, because these kids get judged on winning and losing. But I signed up for it, so I got to deal with difficult. Like, it is what it is. But watching Rasul Matt Cross, and just go on down the line in my career. By the end of their careers, I rarely raise my voice at them. Why? Because they've already embraced that day in, day out growth, responsibility, their willingness to help others get better. That's what life's about, man. Teaching others how to do their job so then they can turn around and help elevate other people's lives. And that's why now as college basketball's changing, as college athletics is, as this starts taking shape, me, who I am to my core, do I fit? I don't know. I'm gonna try and figure it out because I still enjoy doing this. But you know, the day that all that matters is winning games, then that's the day I gotta. And I'll send you a picture of where I'm at. I'll be serving rum and cokes for a living, and
toes in the sand, Coach. Hey. Hopefully
flip flops,
Tommy
soon. Bahama shorts, and a big comfortable.
Not for a while. All right, Coach. Thanks so much. Congratulations on the victory to start the season, and we will see you in Morgantown. He's head coach Frank Martin. He's just being Frank. I'm Jay Burnham. We'll see you next time.